We've reported that two Mississippians lost their lives early that morning. 25-year-old Matthew Tenedorio and 18-year-old Nakira Dito. Our Brandon Miguel sits down with Nakira's close friend who witnessed that horrific event unfold right in front of him.
What started as a late night of fun and celebration to ring in the new year quickly took a turn for a group of friends and family from Gulfport visiting New Orleans.
On January 1st, 2025, at 3:15 a.m., surveillance cameras captured a white pickup truck accelerating down Bourbon Street in New Orleans. The driver steered deliberately into crowds of New Year's Eve revelers. Within seconds, 14 people were dead and over 30 injured. Among the victims was Nakira Dito, 18 years old, from Gulfport, Mississippi. Dito had traveled to New Orleans with her friend Zion Parsons despite her mother's warnings. She had been there the previous New Year's Eve and wanted to return. Hours before the attack, bystanders recorded video of Dito petting a horse in the French Quarter, laughing. At 3:15 a.m., she was leaving a restaurant when the truck appeared. Parsons watched the vehicle strike his friend. He saw a body scattered across the pavement. Emergency responders covered Dito with a tarp. Parsons called her mother, Melissa Dito, and told her what happened. Within hours, the images went viral. Videos showing the truck's path through the crowd, photographs of victims on the street, footage of Dito's final moments, all circulated across social media platforms. Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a case.
Split second. So quick that I couldn't even believe it.
17-year-old Zion Parsons.
I just remember hearing the commotion and all the loud banging.
Is describing the moment he witnessed his close friend, 18-year-old Nakira Dito, lose her life in a matter of minutes on Bourbon Street.
I ended up seeing CCTV footage from the bar, and it showed just how quick it was coming. And a split second, as soon as we made it out the way, Nakira ran into the street and she was struck by the vehicle.
It's after a truck plowed through a crowd of people early on New Year's Day, killing Nakira and 13 others and leaving more than 30 people injured.
Oh no, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out, all the way, all the way, all the way.
Zion says he shot this video just minutes before the attack, simply capturing memories of Nakira, never realizing it would be some of her last.
Her cousin had on a blonde wig. She was easy to spot. So I saw her and I was like, where's Nye? Where's Nye? That was her nickname. I was like, where's Nye? Where's Nakira? And I'm searching for her in the crowd of people. Everybody is just looking distraught. I'm moving people out of the way. I'm like, where's Nye? Where's Nye? Where's Nye? And I turned my head and it was just her laying in the street. Yeah.
Zion's mother, Shanice Parsons, says while she's fortunate to have her child back home, she hurts inside knowing the outcome was different for others.
I could be sitting in front of this camera talking about him. And, you know, if I would have lost him, that would have, you know what I'm saying, that would have broke me. So I can just imagine, you know what I'm saying, what her mother is feeling. You know what I'm saying?
She says this is something no mother should have to experience, and both she and Zion want all children to know to always listen to their parent.
Man, I lost a very close friend of mine, but her mother lost her daughter. Yeah. And that truly just hurts more than anything.
So it's like, it's very important that, you know, just like he said, listen to your parents, because that's all you got right about then. When the world go back to normal, it's going to be me and him against his mind and what he saw.
Nakira Dito was born and raised in Gulfport, Mississippi, as the third oldest of 6 children in the Dito household. Her mother, Melissa Dito, worked as a registered nurse at age 40, while her father, Nicholas Dito, helped raise their large family. The household operated with clear family dynamics, and Nakira maintained close relationships with both parents. Family members referred to her as Cheyenne, while friends knew her by the nickname Biscuit. Extended family included a great-aunt, Amiria Israel, who resided in Gary, Indiana. Nakira's educational trajectory showed consistent academic performance. She attended Harrison Central High School in Gulfport, Mississippi, where she graduated with honors in May 2024. Throughout her high school years, she maintained placement on the honor roll. Her social circle was extensive. She was described as a popular student who regularly traveled with what witnesses called carloads of friends. During her high school years, she also engaged in hospital work, gaining early exposure to the medical field she planned to enter professionally. The career path Nikaira selected followed a multi-generational pattern in her family. With her mother working as a registered nurse, Nikaira chose to pursue the same profession. She completed the application process and gained acceptance into the nursing program at Blue Cliff College. Her start date was set for January 13th, 2025. Prior to beginning formal nursing education, she had already secured employment at a local hospital, accumulating practical experience in medical settings. She was 12 days away from starting her nursing program when her life ended. Multiple individuals who interacted with Nikaira provided consistent descriptions of her personality. Zion Parsons, an 18-year-old friend who would later witness her death, characterized her as a little ball of sunshine. According to Parsons, she was never observed in states of depression or irritability. She maintained consistent positivity. When Parsons or others in her social circle exhibited negative energy, Nikaira would actively work to improve their mood. Parsons stated definitively, "You can't find a reason to dislike her." Additional descriptions painted a picture of someone with a sweet, outgoing, and giving nature. She was constantly surrounded by friends, suggesting strong social bonds and the ability to maintain multiple relationships. Notably, she had no disciplinary record. She never got into trouble at school or in her community. This clean record extended through her entire adolescence. Even government officials took note of her character after her death. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry issued a statement describing her as one of the most amazing persons who loved everyone and was a light to be around. This assessment from a political figure who never met her alive indicates the breadth of public response to her death and the impression her life made through secondary accounts. On December 31st, 2024, Nikaira Dito made a decision against explicit parental instruction. Her mother, Melissa Dito, had specifically requested that her daughter not travel to Bourbon Street for New Year's Eve celebrations. This was not an arbitrary restriction. Nikaira had traveled to Bourbon Street for New Year's Eve the previous year, during the 2023 to 2024 transition. Melissa Dito had concerns about the danger associated with the area, particularly during major celebrations when crowds swelled and security challenges increased. There was also a practical element to Melissa's request. She worked an overnight shift at her nursing job and needed Nikaira to pick her up at 7:30 a.m. on January 1st, 2025. This arrangement required Nikaira to be home and available with a vehicle. Despite these explicit instructions and practical need, Nikaira chose to travel to New Orleans. She did not inform her mother of this decision. She snuck away with her companions. Melissa Dito only learned her daughter had gone to New Orleans after the attack had already occurred. Nikaira traveled with two other 18-year-olds, her cousin, whose name has been withheld from public reporting, and her friend Zion Parsons. The trio departed from Gulfport, Mississippi, and drove to New Orleans, arriving on December 31st, 2024. The distance between Gulfport and New Orleans is approximately 80 miles, representing roughly a 90-minute drive under normal conditions. The group spent the evening hours celebrating in the French Quarter, the historic neighborhood where Bourbon Street is located. Video footage captured earlier that evening shows Nikaira petting a horse in the French Quarter. In this recording, she is laughing. This video would later circulate on social media as one of the final images of her alive and in a state of happiness. The group's final location before the attack was Voodoo Chicken and Daiquiris, a restaurant situated on Bourbon Street near Bienville Street. They were leaving this establishment at approximately 3:15 a.m. At 3:15 a.m. on January 1st, 2025, Zion Parsons heard what he described as commotion and banging that emerged without warning. Melissa Dito's niece, who was part of the group, reported hearing what sounded like gunshots. The group's immediate response was to run. In the chaos and confusion of the moment, Nikaira ran into the street. This placed her directly in the path of an oncoming vehicle traveling at high speed. The vehicle struck Nikaira. The impact occurred while the truck was traveling at significant velocity. She suffered severe injuries from blunt force trauma. The Orleans Parish coroner would later officially list the cause of death as blunt force injuries. Zion Parsons witnessed the vehicle strike his friend. He observed bodies scattered throughout the street. People were screaming in all directions. The scene descended into chaos within seconds. Emergency responders arrived on the scene rapidly. First responders assessed the situation and began treating the injured. Authorities covered Nakaira's body with a tarp, the standard protocol for deceased individuals at a mass casualty scene. Parsons watched as they placed the covering over his friend's body. This visual confirmation would haunt him and would become the basis for how Melissa Dito learned her daughter's death before official notification. The responsibility of informing Melissa Dito fell to Zion Parsons. He placed a call to her. Melissa Dito asked him, "Where's my baby?" Parsons later stated, "I hadn't had time to cry up until I called her mother and she asked me, 'Where's my baby?' That broke me." This phone call occurred while Melissa Dito was at work during her overnight shift. Parsons and Nakaira's cousin then reunited with other traumatized family members. The Orleans Parish Coroner's Office had not yet officially confirmed Nakaira's death at the time of Parsons' call. However, Melissa Dito stated that she knew immediately her daughter was gone. She explained, "As a mother, when my niece and Parsons said they covered her with a sheet, I just knew that was it for my daughter." Another family member drove to pick Melissa up from her overnight shift, as Nakaira was not available to fulfill this duty as planned. Melissa reported that she sensed something was wrong immediately upon seeing the alternate driver. The family then drove to the French Quarter to search for where the group had parked their car the night before. The attacker was Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar, born on October 26, 1982, in Beaumont, Texas. He was 42 years old at the time of the attack. He died on January 1st, 2025, killed by police gunfire during the incident. Jabbar was an African-American male who was originally raised in a Christian household. His father converted to Islam at some point and changed the family's surname from Young to Jabbar. His mother remained Christian. The family history included a grandfather who moved from Louisiana to Texas as part of the Creole migration to Beaumont. The family predominantly attended a local Baptist church during Jabbar's upbringing. He had 3 younger brothers. The youngest, Abdur Jabbar, was 24 at the time of the attack, making Shamsuddin the eldest of 4 brothers. Jabbar served in the U.S. Army on active duty from 2007 to 2015, a total of 8 years. His roles were in human resources and information technology, not direct combat positions. He was deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010. After his active duty service, he continued as an Army Reserve IT specialist from 2015 to 2020. He received an honorable discharge from the Army. Military records show no extremism was noted during his entire period of service. His criminal history was limited. In 2002, he was arrested in Katy, Texas for misdemeanor theft. In 2005, he was arrested for driving with an invalid license. These were minor offenses. Notably, he was not on any federal watch list before the attack, meaning intelligence agencies had no indication he posed a terrorism threat. Jabbar's personal life was marked by multiple failed marriages. His first wife, Nikidra Charles Jabbar, sued him for child support in 2012 for 2 daughters, who were ages 8 and 3 at the time. His second wife, Tierra Simone Jabbar, divorced him in 2016, with the filing occurring in DeKalb County, Georgia. His third wife, Shaneen Chandler Jabbar, married him in November 2017. This marriage ended in divorce in July 2020, filed in Fort Bend County, Texas. 3 marriages, all ending in divorce, created ongoing legal and financial obligations. From 2021, Jabbar was employed by Deloitte, working in a staff-level role in professional services. In 2024, his salary was approximately $125,000 per year. This represents a solid middle-class income. However, he faced severe financial pressures despite this income level. He had court-ordered child support payments from his first marriage. He carried credit card debt. He had mortgage debt. The combination of these obligations created financial strain even with his substantial salary. The transformation of Jabbar from a functioning member of society to a terrorist occurred over a period of years. In 2022, he became a more devout Muslim and began isolating himself from society. In 2024, he moved to a Muslim community located north of Houston. However, he did not attend either of the two nearby mosques. He was not a formal member of any of the Islamic Society of Greater Houston's 21 congregations. Despite living in a Muslim community, he remained isolated from mainstream religious institutions. In 2024, he published conservative religious recordings to SoundCloud, a music streaming platform. In these recordings, he condemned music as a gateway into the things that God had made forbidden to us, specifically mentioning alcohol and marijuana. In an early 2024 recording, he claimed that the voice of Satan spreading among Prophet Muhammad's followers was a sign of the end times. This apocalyptic rhetoric indicated growing extremism. In spring 2024, he began following explicitly extremist views. His radicalization toward ISIS ideology accelerated after the Gaza war began in 2023. The FBI's assessment concluded he was 100% inspired by ISIS. In videos he recorded, he claimed he joined ISIS before summer 2024. This means his formal adoption of ISIS ideology occurred at least 6 months before the attack. Jabbar traveled internationally twice in summer 2023. In late June 2023, he traveled alone to Cairo, Egypt, for 11 days. In mid-July 2023, he made a 3-day stay in Ontario, Canada. Investigators were working to determine who he may have met during these travels and whether these trips were connected to his radicalization or attack planning. He returned to the United States in July 2023. On October 30th, 2024, Jabbar stayed at a New Orleans Airbnb for at least 2 days. The purpose of this trip was to scout the attack location. He used Meta smart glasses to record video during this reconnaissance. These glasses can take photos, video, and use artificial intelligence to answer questions about surroundings. He recorded a video while bicycling through the French Quarter. This allowed him to study the layout and crowd patterns of Bourbon Street in detail. On November 10th, 2024, Jabbar took a train from Houston to New Orleans. During the second surveillance trip, he looked at an apartment for rent on Orleans Street in the French Quarter. He returned to Texas the same evening by bus. Days later, he applied to rent the apartment. Subsequently, he told the landlord he had changed his mind. The FBI later released a photograph of Jabbar on Bourbon Street during this November visit. Jabbar conducted electronic searches as late as mid-November. His search history included queries about how to access a balcony on Bourbon Street, information about Mardi Gras, and several shootings in New Orleans. Hours before the attack, he searched for information about a car ramming attack at a German Christmas market that had occurred 10 days earlier. This research pattern showed methodical planning and study of similar attacks. On December 30th, 2024, Jabbar rented a white electric Ford F-150 pickup truck in Houston. He used Turo, a private vehicle rental website that operates as a peer-to-peer car-sharing marketplace. He picked up the vehicle on Monday, December 30th. Turo later released a statement saying, "We are shocked to learn of reports, outraged by this shameful and senseless act." Jabbar assembled improvised explosive devices using commonly found explosives in the United States. Specifically, he used RDX explosive material. The FBI described the construction as crude, showing lack of experience. He rigged the devices with shrapnel, including nails, screws, and tacks to maximize casualties. He used electric matches instead of proper detonators, another sign of inexperience in bomb making. He packed the explosives into coolers for placement in the target area. He acquired multiple firearms, a handgun and an AR-style assault rifle. He also created privately made silencers. Investigators were examining whether these met official classification requirements. One silencer was attached to the rifle he used during the attack. Another silencer was later found in his Airbnb rental. Authorities were investigating whether the weapons were illegally acquired. Jabbar rented a home on Mandeville Street in the St. Roch neighborhood of New Orleans. He used this location to prepare his weapons and explosives. He would later attempt to destroy this location as evidence. On December 31st, 2024, Jabbar entered Louisiana at an estimated time of 2:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve. At around 9 p.m., His vehicle was spotted in Gonzales, Louisiana, located 55 miles northwest of New Orleans. At some point, he attached an ISIS flag to the trailer hitch of the truck. During the drive, he posted 5 videos to his Facebook account. The timestamp showed the first video was posted at 1:29 a.m. and the last video at 3:02 a.m., just 13 minutes before the attack began. In the first video, he revealed he had originally planned to harm his family and friends. He stated he changed these plans because he was concerned news headlines wouldn't focus on the war between the believers and the disbelievers. He proclaimed his support for ISIS. He stated he joined ISIS before summer 2024. He provided his last will and testimony. These videos showed clear premeditation and ideological motivation. At 12:41 a.m. on January 1st, 2025, Jabbar parked the truck and walked to the intersection of Royal Street and Governor Nichols Street. At 1:53 a.m., he placed the first IED in a rolling cooler at Bourbon Street and Peter Street. Several people later moved this cooler 1 block to Orland Street, completely unaware of its contents. At 2:20 a.m., he placed the second IED in a bucket cooler at Bourbon Street and Toulouse Street. At 3:15 a.m., the attack began. Jabbar drove onto the sidewalk to bypass a police SUV and barricades. Steel barricades designed to prevent vehicular access were not functioning. NOPD Superintendent and Kirkpatrick later acknowledged that police knew the barricades malfunctioned sometimes and had used other barricades instead, but these proved insufficient. Jabbar drove into people along a 3-block stretch between Canal and Connie Streets. The NOPD superintendent stated the suspect was trying to run over as many people as he possibly could. The high-speed impact continued over multiple blocks as he deliberately targeted dense crowds. The attack lasted approximately 15 seconds of active vehicular assault. Jabbar crashed the truck into an aerial work platform and construction equipment. He exited the vehicle wielding his assault rifle with a homemade silencer attached. He opened fire on New Orleans police officers. Officers returned fire. Jabbar was shot 4 times in the torso. He was killed at the scene. 2 police officers were shot during the exchange, but both survived in stable condition. 14 civilians died in the attack, spanning ages 18 to 63. Nikaira Cheyenne-Dito, 18, from Gulfport, Mississippi, was the aspiring nurse. Kareem Badawi, 18, was a University of Alabama student. Tiger Beck, 27, from Lafayette, Louisiana, was a former Princeton football star who worked as a bonds trader. Drew Dauphin, 25, from Alabama, had graduated from Auburn University in 2023. Billy DeMaio, 31, from New York City, worked as an Odyssey account executive. Reggie Hunter, 37, from Baton Rouge, was a father of 2 children ages 11 and 1. Terrence Terry Kennedy, 63, from New Orleans, was a lifelong resident and sports fan. Nicole Perez, 31, from Metairie, managed Kimmy's Deli and was a mother of a 4-year-old son. Edward Pettifer, 31, from Chelsea, London, was a British citizen and the stepson of a former royal nanny. Latasha Polk, 47, from New Orleans Stream neighborhood, worked as a certified nursing assistant and was a mother of a 14-year-old. Brandon Taylor, 43, from Terrytown, worked as a cook and was an aspiring business owner who was engaged. Matthew Tenedorio, 29, from Slidell, had graduated from Pearl River Central High and worked as a Superdome AV technician. Elliot Wilkinson, 40, from Lafayette. Martin Tiger Beck, 28, from Lafayette. The FBI confirmed at least 57 individuals were physically injured. A total of 136 victims were identified, including 2 businesses with damages. Multiple college students were among the injured. 2 Israeli citizens were injured. 2 Mexican citizens were injured. Injuries range from minor to critical. Some survivors were paralyzed or permanently disabled. Notable injured individuals included Adam Kost, an Army veteran and National World War II Museum employee who sustained extensive lower extremity injuries. Jeremiah Sensky from Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, was already paralyzed from the waist down and in a wheelchair when struck, sustaining 2 broken legs. Alexa Scott Wyndham from Mobile, Alabama, was struck by the truck and then shot in the foot during the police shootout. Brandon Whitsett suffered multiple injuries. Kevin Ball, Reggie Hunter's cousin, survived with injuries. A University of Georgia student was critically injured. Law enforcement found an ISIS flag in the vehicle. They recovered weapons, a handgun and an AR-style rifle with a homemade suppressor. They located 2 IEDs in coolers on Bourbon Street. They found a wireless remote in the truck that was connected to the bombs. Neither bomb detonated. FBI Special Agent bomb technicians rendered the devices safe. Initially, authorities believed Jabbar had accomplices. This assessment was based on surveillance footage showing people near the explosive devices. After further review, investigators determined Jabbar acted alone. The people seen near the devices were not connected in any way to the attack. On January 4th, the FBI Deputy Assistant Director stated, "Do not assess at this point that anyone else is involved." Scene investigation continued through January 1st. Bourbon Street remained closed until 1 p.m. for evidence collection. Authorities recovered 3 cell phones from Jabbar. They recovered 2 laptops. Analysis showed no evidence in call logs of communication about the attack. Investigators reviewed thousands of videos and photos submitted through public tips. At approximately 5 a.m. on January 1st, a fire was reported at the Mandeville Street Airbnb Jabbar had rented. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives launched an investigation. Authorities believe Jabbar attempted to destroy evidence of his crimes by setting the fire. The fire broke out on the same day as the attack. Additional explosive materials were found inside the burned structure. The second homemade silencer was discovered in the Airbnb. The FBI led the investigation, classifying it as an act of domestic terrorism. Deputy Assistant Director Christopher Rea from the Counterterrorism Division was brought in from Washington. Initial FBI Special Agent Alethea Duncan was sidelined after publicly stating the attack was not terrorism in early statements. Special Agent in charge Lionel Myrtle led the New Orleans field office's involvement. ATF Special Agent in charge Joshua Jackson assisted. The Department of Homeland Security was involved. National Security Division prosecutors became involved. The investigative timeline proceeded as follows. On January 1st, the FBI declared the incident an act of terrorism. On January 2nd, they confirmed 14 civilian deaths plus the perpetrator's death. On January 4th, they confirmed Jabbar acted alone. From January 5th to 7th, the timeline of his planning was revealed through evidence analysis. On January 14th, the updated victim count of 136 total victims was identified. The investigation into Jabbar's complete radicalization timeline remained ongoing. Videos and photos of the attack circulated immediately on social media platforms. The footage showed the truck's path through the crowd, victims lying on the street, bodies covered with tarps, and Nakyra Dito's final moments. Content spread across TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Platform algorithms pushed the content to millions of users. Content moderation systems at these companies could not keep pace with the volume of uploads and shares. On January 3rd, 2025, Melissa Dito made a public plea. She stated, "To see videos of my baby being hit, that's not what any parent wants." She continued, "It broke me, looking at her body in the road. That was too much." She emphasized, "I haven't even gotten her body back yet." She explained, "I don't want to see her like that. I don't want to remember her like that." The videos seemed unavoidable on social media. She described her experience. "I look on TikTok and all I see is my baby. All I see is my child when I open phone." Dr. Jennifer Avegno, New Orleans Health Director, addressed the issue. She called the sharing of images incredibly traumatizing for families involved. She described the practice as really unhelpful and in many ways disrespectful. She stated, "Repeatedly seeing horrific images is not helpful to someone who is grieving." Social media platforms have written rules barring violent videos. The images remained widespread despite these policies. Melissa Dito kept her social media apps open despite the trauma. She found hundreds of messages of support. She found positive videos of Nakaira in happier times, including the video of Nakaira petting a horse in the French Quarter before the attack. She stated, "The videos I see of her in New Orleans before that happened are beautiful. Her petting a horse, having a great time. That's how I want to remember her." If this story impacted you or shifted the way you see the world, please like the video and share it with someone who needs to hear AT, Deadly Crime Unmasked. Our goal is not just awareness, but remembrance, giving a voice to those who were silenced. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay with us as we continue exposing the hidden truths behind real crimes. Thank you for your time, your compassion, and your support. Stay aware, stay kind.